Today we're covering lesson 3.3, which is function notation. So function notation is another way to write the equation of a function where f of x is just another name for y, okay? So you're used to seeing like y equals 2x plus 5, or ms plus b, that's our slope-intercept form, all right? But now if the relation is a function, instead of writing y, like here, they will write f of x. They can use other letters. Sometimes you'll see g of x or h of x, something like that. Just know that that stands for the same thing as y, okay? So if we are evaluating functions, so again, I know it's a function because it has f of x. So I just kind of think f for function, right? So if I have this one, negative 4x plus 7, find f of 4. Okay, so if I'm going to plug 4 in for x, all right, f of 4, and I do negative 4, and I'm replacing x with a 4 everywhere it's at. So that's negative 4 times 4 in parentheses plus 7. Okay, if you remember, this side just stands for y. So I'm really not solving anything on that side. That's just kind of telling me what I'm finding. It's kind of like titling it, okay? And then I simplify this right side. Okay, I would definitely recommend a calculator. If you have a calculator, you can just plug this whole part in. If not, you kind of have to do it step by step and make sure that you're following the order of operations, okay? So if I'm doing that, it's negative 16 plus 7, okay, and that will give me f of 4. Remember, that's just like my title, I'm not solving anything there. And then negative 16 plus 7 will be negative 9. Okay, all these are going to be pretty similar. I will say something happened with my file. I know very well may have been my fault, but just so you know, these down here, they say if f equals negative. I was supposed to say find f of this number, okay? So like, or this one be g of this number, h of 5, s of 6, f of 4, and then g of negative 1. So sorry about that. So it should be like find, and we're just plugging in just like we did on this first example. Okay, so then if I'm going to do f of x, and I'm going to do f of 1/2, it says on number 1. So f of 1/2. So basically I'm pronouncing those parentheses f of. And then negative, put parentheses where you plug in for x. So if x is 1/2 now, I plug that in here, plus 4. If you want, you can make 1/2 0.5. You make it a decimal. I will say if it ever doesn't come out nice and even, so if it's repeating, non-terminating, don't use that. But if it does come out to a nice kind of stopping or terminating decimal, you can go ahead and do that. All right, so this is going to give me, so first you want to think, okay, that negative makes this negative 1/2 plus 4. You don't really have to simplify that, but just to show you that you could. So then my final answer will be f of 1/2 equals negative 1/2 plus 4 is 3.5, or if you use the decimal, 3.5. All right, number 2, g of x equals 5x. So find g of negative 4. So g of negative 4.5, equals 5, and then I'm replacing that x there and there. So parentheses negative 4.5. So remember, on this side, we're really not solving anything. That's just like our title, so I just kind of leave that. So g of negative 4.5 will equal, and then that's going to give us negative 22.5. Okay. 3, h of x equals, and this means these lines mean absolute value. I'm not sure if you can type those in the calculator. I'll have to you would have to kind of explore a little bit. You probably can, but just to give you a quick reminder of what that is. So if I have like the absolute value of -3, that basically means how far is it from 0. So, well, -3, you can't really have a negative distance of how far something is, so it's still just 3 from 0. So the absolute value of -3 would be 3. Basically, it makes it positive there. If it were already positive, so like the absolute value of 2, it's just 2. Okay. All right, so we'll plug that in. Find h of 5. So h of 5 equals absolute value of 7 minus 2 parentheses 5, close my absolute value. All right, so that's going to give me, I want to simplify 2 times 5 is 10. So absolute value of 7 minus 10. So 7 minus 10 is -3. And then that final step there, the absolute value of -3 is 3. Okay, 4. So s of x equals 12 minus 0.5x divided by 2. Find s of 6. Plug in for the x. And plug in for x there. Okay, and you want to, if you have a pretty good calculator, you should be able to type in all of this first and then do the division. Okay, so I know 0.5 times 6 is 3. That's going to be 12 minus 3, which is 9 divided by 2. So then final answer, and I would say do solve that top part first. So 9 divided by 2 is going to give me 4.5 as a decimal, or 4.5 as a fraction. All right, number 5, I want to find f of 4. So f of 4 for my x equals 6 plus 3. Plug in 4 again here in this x spot, and then don't forget that minus 2 at the end. So there's a little more going on with this one. So I highly recommend at least checking these in the calculator, because you can do that whole part on the calculator if you have that. If you don't have an app already downloaded, I would recommend the x84 graphing calculator app. If I needed to do it without, and I gotta simplify, then I want to do multiplication first. So that's going to become 6 plus 12 minus 2. And then we do addition, subtraction, just left to right, okay? So that's going to be 6 plus 12 is 18, and then minus 2 is going to give me f of 4 to equal 16. Okay, last one here. I'm finding g of -1. So g of -1 equals, there's a lot negatives going on here, so be careful. So -2 minus 2 parentheses, plug in your x, plus 7. Again, your calculator will do all of this row at once, but at least I would recommend at least checking it on there, okay? So I want to -2, do my multiplication here first, because those parentheses show me that. So -2 times -1 makes that positive 2. Negatives cancel. And then I'm going to add or subtract left to right. So -2 plus 2 is 0. 0 plus 7 will give us a final answer. G -1 equals 7. Okay, so now we're going to look at writing equations in function notation. So you still need to find the slope and the y-intercept like we did last unit and everything. You can think the y-intercept as when x is 0. That's going to be important. And then when you write your equation, it's going to look like this. So f of x equals mx plus b. M is still the slope. B is still the y-intercept. All right, so looking at number 1, I usually start with the slope. So the x is going up 1. The y is going up 0. All right, so for my slope, Remember, I put y over x, the change in y over the change in x. Change of y here is 0, over x is 1, and that just means 0 divided by 1. So that means our slope, or our m, is 0. All right, remember, instead of y equals, I want to write f of x equals to show that's a function. All right, if my slope is 0, okay, I want to write 0x, and then just to point this out again, the y-intercept is when x is 0, okay? That's where the y is going to cross the y-axis there, or the line's going to cross. So this is my y-intercept, so I'm going to plug that. That's positive 8. You're looking at the y value, so plus 8. Okay, and then you just want to simplify this, because if it's 0x, that's not simplest form. I just really don't need that at all. So I would say f of x equals 8. And I'll say usually that's not going to be a solid and plain number, but in this case it was. All right, so let's look at 2. So our x values looks like are still going up by 1. Now the y, -1 to 2. Well, and if you want to use a number line, that's helpful. So you can just look, how many spaces is that? Well, it's 3 spaces, and it went towards the positive, so I want to think plus. 2 to 5 is plus 3. 5 to 8 is plus 3. So it's good that that's the same. So that makes, remember, y over x, and our change in y was 3. Our x was 1, so that gives me m, or a slope of 3. It's going to be important. Now our y-intercept, they did not give us here because it is when x is 0, all right? So you just want to look at the pattern. So 0 to 1, I only need to go one more if I'm going to the left. So if I'm going to the left, you want to think opposite. So I would want to think, I can either do -1 minus 3, or I can think what number plus 3 would equal -1. So hopefully you can figure out that's -4. Okay, and then just check it. So -4 plus 3, yes, that is -1, so that is my y-intercept. Okay, and now let's write our equation. So started off, it's function notation, so f of x equals, and I will do, my slope is 3, put my x, and then our y-intercept was -4, so I'm going to put -4.